Hey guys, welcome back to another episode, another session here on TD Fitness. I am your host, Coach T, and in this session, we are talking about the power of purposeful pauses, effective strategies for healthy living and longevity. And really what I'm getting into tonight is rest, recovery, white space, and breathing room. And what I did was put together what I call the 6 P's of longevity and sustainability. And this applies to diet, it applies to exercise, overall fitness, mental capacity, you name it, life in general. So I got my water here and I'm ready to go. Okay. So, this one was inspired by a couple of things. First, a friend of ours recently expressed some concern over how busy she is and how she doesn't have any time for herself. She's in a position of authority, has a lot of responsibility, and a lot of people that depend on her to make decisions day in and day out. So I can absolutely empathize with that, with the situation that she's in. And even in my own life, as I try to balance a pretty demanding full-time career outside of what I do here with TD Fitness, but that on top of my passion to help others primarily through TD Fitness. And then you think about the demanding schedule for a training regimen that's associated with the Ironman distance races that I do. And then the most important thing to me, the thing that I never want to lose sight of, and that's my responsibilities as a husband and as a father. So I'm constantly working to protect that and to balance all of those demands. And one way that I am able to do that is through an understanding and an appreciation for rest. And it seems counterintuitive, I know. We think that working harder at everything will allow us to keep the right balance, when in actuality, it's tactical pauses and tactical rest periods that enable the longevity and the productivity that we need. And sometimes I forget that. It wasn't until I was doing one of my daily devotionals a couple of weeks ago, I came across a 2-day recharge Bible study for men. And that simple devotional was enough to serve as the reminder that I need from time to time. So this episode is my way of providing a reminder to you if you need it, or maybe presenting a different outlook altogether if you haven't really thought of this topic before. So today we talk about fitness, nutrition, and I'm going to expand the scope a little bit to healthy life practices, specifically the work-life balance, because my goal for you is to live healthier, and healthy living involves much more than just diet and exercise. So here is the key statement for today. There is power in purposeful, planned, periodic pauses that results in increased productivity. That's a mouthful. I know. I'm going to repeat that. There is power in purposeful, planned, periodic pauses that results in increased productivity. I know I have the alliteration going on there with the 6 P's. I get a lot of practice at that from reading kids' books to my little girls. But what I want to do is dive into the pause. We're going to talk about why it should be purposeful, how to incorporate it into your schedule so that it is planned, how to make those pauses periodic, and understand the power behind or within this concept, ultimately so that we can reap the reward or that result being productivity. So what do I mean by the pause? I know that pause it's a broad term, and I'm intentionally expanding the scope on this one beyond exercise, fitness, and nutrition, because this is it's such an important aspect in every facet of our lives. And by understanding that, we can live healthier. That's what I want for you. So I'm using the term pause to mean several things. I'm using it to mean rest as part of your daily life. I'm using it to mean recovery integrated into your training regimen. I've written about rest and recovery on the TD Fitness blog. I'll be sure to link to that in the show notes for this episode. I'm talking about the downtime, that white space you put into your schedule. And I'm not sure where I first heard that term white space, but it's become a part of my vocabulary now. And it's definitely a part of my routine. In fact, my wife gives me a hard time because oftentimes I'll take what I call tea time, which are times of internal reflection for me. Usually I'm by myself, just me. So I'm able to recharge and reboot, if you will, in those short periods of tea time so that I can be my best self for my family and for my job. I'm talking about the strategic pauses and the breathing room that you put into your mindset and your actions. And that term breathing room I got from Pastor Andy Stanley. I caught one of his sermons a couple of years back, and he also does a leadership podcast. So I listen to that from time to time, but he talked about this term breathing room and how we should intentionally and purposefully incorporate that concept into our lives. So this is kind of an extension of that. So why is the pause important? Well, simply put, you cannot go 100% all the time. If you're an engineer or a mechanic, you understand that the most powerful engine in the world cannot run at maximum capacity forever. It's usually not intended to run at max capacity except when absolutely needed. If we think about it in terms of exercise, the most obvious example in that case would be interval training. Intervals consist of two parts. We often forget that, but there's the work period and the rest or recovery phase. That's the point. The point is to get more done in less time by tactically incorporating recovery periods. I think back to a little over a year ago, my daughter had just turned 4, and that made her eligible to participate in what's called an Iron Kids race. And it was an exciting time for us because, now she was going to have the opportunity to kind of do what Daddy does. They have the little kids race the day before the Ironman event. And I think it's a quarter mile or a half mile run. You run around the block, and the kids get the Ironman t-shirt, Iron Kids t-shirt, and the big medal. And it was really cool. So I'm there with her at the starting line, and the starting horn goes off, and our daughter takes off in a dead sprint. I mean, she's running full throttle. So I'm like, all right, this is going to be a pretty good race, a pretty good event. So she runs for about 50, 60 yards and then just stops completely. And she's breathing hard. She's not walking. She's just stopped. I'm like, hey, you okay? You okay, baby? And she takes off again, for another 40 yards or so, and then stops again completely, breathing hard. And she does that for the entire course. So I'm thinking, okay, either we have a sprinter on our hands, we've got someone who we wanted to do an interval workout today, or maybe she just doesn't understand what it means to pace yourself yet. And that's exactly what it was. She didn't understand that you can't go 100% all the time. You got to stop from time to time. So that's why we pause. That's why the break is important. We cannot keep going full throttle all the time. So my question to you then is, why do we try to do that in everyday life? Why do we seldom take leave or vacation unless we're forced to? We try to save our leave or vacation days for a time when we really need it. Well, guess what? You probably need it now. We sit at our desks all day long, rarely even getting up to go to the bathroom or to get water. We'll eat lunch at our desks or sometimes just work through lunch. And why do we try to diet without planning any time for deviation, for enjoying food and enjoying life? So that's what I'm talking about with the pause. So that's the first P. The second P is that pauses need to be purposeful. So what do I mean when I say that your pauses need to be purposeful? It's easy to listen to this and interpret what I'm saying the wrong way. So some people might say, well, if breaks are what I need, then why don't I just take a break all the time, right? Well, okay, it doesn't work like that. Remember, ultimately, we're talking about increasing productivity. And in order to do that, you have to do the work. What I'm saying is that your work, whether it's your job, your passion, whether it's exercise, your diet, whatever, it can be made more effective by incorporating purposeful pauses. I'm talking about the pauses, the breaks, and the downtime that are to be placed in your schedule at times when they're needed. This doesn't mean to incorporate pauses all the time for no reason at all. And it also doesn't mean to wait until you have to pause or you have to take a break, where you reach the point of exhaustion, either figuratively or literally. Remember, breaks are needed well before you reach the breaking point. So purposeful pauses occur before they're critically needed, but not so often that they prevent you from doing what it is that you have to do. So pauses need to be purposeful. They also need to be planned. That's the third P. As a kid, did you look forward to summer break? I mean, even now I look forward to holidays because I know I'll get some time off from work. And once the summer break or the holiday or the vacation's over, I typically feel pretty recharged. I feel refreshed. We look forward to nights out when we have a babysitter because that's a planned period where we get a little bit of a break. So here's the deal. When pauses are planned, they give us something to look forward to. We look forward to that feeling of relief, even just temporary relief, because we know that we can recharge a bit through that. Here's another question for you. Why is it that we look so forward to the weekend every week? It's because that's a periodic pause for most of us, and that's the fourth P, periodic. It occurs on a schedule. It's going to come the same time every week, and they're great, right? So periodic is the fourth P. The last two Ps, what I'm trying to get through to you here is that there is power in purposeful, planned, and periodic pauses. So the fifth P is power, and the sixth P is productivity, because there's power, there's productivity that comes from taking those pauses. And when they're planned, when they're purposeful and periodic, you'll find that you can get a lot more done in the long run because you're able to recharge, to regenerate, and regroup. So I'm going to give you a few examples. And first, we're going to talk about exercise and fitness. I spoke briefly before about interval training and how the work and the rest phases are important. Well, the work to rest ratio is important too with intervals. Intervals can take they can take many different forms, whether it's very short bursts of high intensity exercise followed by a little bit longer rest period, maybe active rest like walking or something like that, or whether it's a 1-to-1 ratio, whether you're doing a 30-second sprint or a 60-second sprint followed by a 30 or 60-second light jog. And different types of intervals have different results when it comes to your metabolic system. So the point, though, is that there is a rest session associated with each one of your work sessions. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the pauses, when I talk about intentional rest. When you think in terms of your workout routine, there are rest days that should be incorporated. And this gives your body time to recover, to heal. Even things like light workouts or stretching or yoga, although some yoga can be pretty intense, but some of the lighter days of exercise also give you a chance to recovery. Recovery weeks are another thing. So I do triathlon training plans. I use those myself, and I also give those to other people. And when I put those plans together, there is an intentional down week planned after every 4 weeks of training. Now, a week is a long time to be down, but the point isn't necessarily to take an entire week off unless you need that, but it's intentionally programmed white space. You can throw in a workout that you might have missed over the past month or so. You can get a massage. You can really focus on stretching that week. It's about providing some room, some breathing room, if you will, in the workout plan. I do the same thing for the TD Fit workout plan that I created, which is a year-long workout plan. I provide that with the Fit Life program because I know that planned, purposeful breaks such as those, increase the chances of long-term adherence to that plan. They serve to protect your body, not by overworking or overtraining. It's kind of like the exhale in your regimen. It's the lull between the high points, that reboot that I'm talking about for your body's operating system. When it comes to nutrition, there are several examples as well. So currently, we're running a challenge called the Think About What You Drink Challenge. And as I look at doing more and more of these challenges for you all, I don't intend to run challenges back to back to back. I don't try to accomplish those without any breaks. It's the time between those challenges are going to be what's important, because you can't go 100% all the time. Cheat days, which you're probably familiar with some diets. Cheat days are good because it gives you a break. It gives you a reprieve from having to continually maintain a regimen, a regimented discipline in your nutrition habits. Recovery weeks. Think about it. If you're following an exercise regimen or an eating plan, is it easier to take it week by week and look forward to the break that's a few days away? Or would you rather just keep on plugging along with no end in sight? I mean, which approach has the higher probability of you adding cheat days on your own? And if you know there is no relief in sight, then you're going to take matters into your own hands. And usually taking matters into your own hands is what got us here in that less healthy state in the first place. And that's why we have to be intentional with it. In my own exercise and nutrition routines and the ones that I program for others, I try to be intentional with that. It's one of the foundational principles of the Fit Life program, which is all about showing you how to make those healthy habits a permanent part of your busy lifestyle. The pauses and the reprieves are key. Now, I told you that I was going to go beyond the exercise and nutrition realm and talk a little bit about life in general, or work-life balance. So as we move on to that, I do feel that this is something that's very important, and I see it in my friends, I see it in loved ones, I see it in coworkers, and I feel like, generally speaking, there is not enough emphasis and not enough talk about the pause as it relates to this work-life balance. So we're going to talk a little bit about that for a second. Now, here's the thing to understand, and this is not going to sit well with a lot of us, but you and I are replaceable, okay? If we took sick tomorrow, the world would not fall apart. Our places of employment would continue to thrive, and there are others that can do what you do. There are others that can do what I do. There are others that can take our place. Heck, maybe a computer could even do some of our jobs, right? Now, I get it. You know, there are times when we have to surge. There are times when you know that the busy period won't last forever, but you just have to endure. Maybe you're in a tough 2-year assignment, or you have to work more often than not. People are literally depending on you, and you can't let them down, and the work needs to get done. Well, there are a couple of things that I'll point out with that. Number one, we usually think we're in that situation when actually we aren't. So things seem much more serious to us than they really are. So I want you to take a hard, objective look at whether that's the case with you. And secondly, it's in these stressful periods that the need for rest is created, not just more work. Yes, it may be a stressful period, but that increases the need for more rest. I mean, if higher levels of responsibility require more of our time, then by definition, the president of the United States, whoever that individual may be at any given time, would never sleep, because there is so much responsibility with that position. Think about it. You know, a good friend and a mentor of mine once told me this as it relates to being in a position of authority, and that was this. He said, do the things that only you can do. I mean, there are going to be a lot of things that you can do, but far fewer things that only you can do, right? So if you're a program manager, you may be able to do the work of the people that work for you, but that's not what you're there for. You're there to take care of the things that they can't take care of, the things that only you can do, because of either your experience, your longevity, your seniority, or your access maybe to higher levels of leadership so that you can care for the people that work for you. Now, I get it. We're all busy, and there are so many different sources telling us what we need to do. And frankly, I'm one of them. I realize that I am part of the noise in your already overwhelmed health and fitness portfolio. But I'm telling you this, you got to take care of yourself. You got to take time off from work. You got to take time off from kids. You got to take time off from working out, take time off from strict dieting. In fact, I don't recommend strict dieting to begin with. We can talk about that in another episode. It's all about incorporating small, sustainable changes to change your eating habits holistically to be more healthy overall. The most valuable resource in your position at your job or your place of employment, the most valuable resource in your role in the family, and the most valuable resource even in your exercise regimen is you. Okay, you've got to protect that. You've got to take care of yourself. Another example, I think, of a higher ranking individual that I used to indirectly work for, he used to tell the story of juggling balls, and each ball represented one facet of your life. So one was your work, another may be your passion or your hobby, one may be your health, one was your family. And he said that all of those balls, except for one, will bounce back if you drop it. And the one that won't bounce back is the family ball, because that's made of glass. So that's what I'm trying to tell you tonight, is that that's what's important. I mean, let's use another example. Let's say you work for, just to make the math easy, I'm going to say you work for 10 hours a day. If you reduced that time by 30 minutes, which is just 5% of your overall work day, and you went home 30 minutes earlier, would you really be only 95% as effective as you would have been if you had stayed for the full 10 hours? Or could you be just as effective in the 9.5 hours? Think about that. And then to look at it another way, if you took that 30 minutes, got home a little bit earlier, got a walk or some exercise in, or better yet, spent time with your family, I can almost guarantee you that that 5% that you took away from work is worth a lot more than 5% to your family. When I get home, I have about 2 hours with my little ones before they go down for the night. So 30 minutes is huge when it comes to additional extra time with the family. So my takeaway point is to be deliberate about your rest. Be deliberate about your recovery, be deliberate about your downtime, and be intentional with the time that you need to take for yourself and for those you love. It is absolutely needed. Healthy living should not be hard, okay? The point is it's meant to be enjoyed. So put healthy habits into your life. Don't plan your life around health all the time. At least that's how you start. Right? You put healthy habits into your life, and eventually you'll find that the healthy habits are prevalent for most of the time. So maybe you're struggling with being unsure about the type of person you want to be. And here's what I mean by that. You want to be healthy, for example, but you don't necessarily want to be one of those people who works out every day. You just don't want to commit to that. And you want to be somebody who eats well, but you don't ever want to be out with friends or at a dinner party and have to say, my diet won't let me eat this or that. It's not all or nothing, okay? You don't have to, nor do you want to shock your body. Rather, you should seek to adopt healthy habits. So I'm going to stop there. That's all I have for this session. I did want to give you a quick update on the Think About Your Drink challenge that we're running right now because I'm excited about it. I was looking at the numbers just before signing on here tonight. 2/3 of the participants are above 75% in compliance, meaning they have met the goal of limiting their drink options to water, coffee, or tea since we started this past Saturday. And the remaining 1/3 is above 50%. So I'm extremely proud of everyone that's accepted this challenge. With everyone being over 50% and the majority over 75% compliance, what that tells me is that they are practicing this particular healthy habit a majority of the time, more often than not. That is huge, because that is what lifestyle change is all about. Practicing healthy habits more often than you practice unhealthy habits. So shout out to the Think About Your Drink Challenge participants. With that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys for watching or listening if you're catching this rebroadcast or podcast. You all have a blessed one. Coach T out.